My guest for this episode is internationally renowned Cebuano industrial designer, Kenneth Cobonpue. We also take a quick tour of his showroom and his garage, showcasing his vintage car collection. I hope you take something from this episode. Thank you. Afternoon, Uncle Kenneth. Nice to see you. It's been a
Afternoon,
while.
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so I just wanted to catch up with you and ask how you've been doing these days. What's new? Any new projects?
We've been doing well. Since the pandemic, I think we've gone back to traveling. We have a lot of new projects from all over the world, and we're healthy. We have a lot of exciting things coming.
So economy is really back. Demand is high.
Yes. So there's it depends. No? Depends. Europe, as you know, there's a war going on, so the demand has slowed down. In the U.S. is still good, but I see also signs of probably a recession coming. So demand has also started to slow down. And hopefully here in the Philippines, we're still pretty strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe going back to your journey as an industrial designer, maybe you can walk us through how that all began, how it unfolded.
Yeah. So I was my mother was designing furniture, and we used to do it at the back of our house. We used to live in Lahog. We had a quaint house, and she was making furniture in her backyard. So my childhood was spent with all the workers, all the craftsmen who were making the furniture. And my mother would tell me stories every night about fairy tales and castles and all kinds of different things. No? And back then, we had no cell phones, no internet, TV. TV was very limited. I mean, for us, it was restricted. And she would tell me these stories and not show me any pictures. So I was forced to imagine what those lands look like, what those creatures look like, what those animals look like. And the next day would find me trying to draw and trying to create with the craftsmen, with all the materials around me, trying to recreate these stories. So I had a very creative childhood. In fact, after high school, I think I enjoyed my childhood so much that I wanted to be a child forever. So I wanted to take up design. And my father said there was no money in design. So he said, like a Chinese businessman, you take up business because
Naturally.
that's natural and it applies to anything you do. And if you like to design, you can always take up design afterwards. So I applied to UP, Diliman, business. I got in, and on the second year, I was very bored. I went over to the Fine Arts College and applied for industrial design, which was a very new course then. I didn't make it because I couldn't draw well enough. And I spent one whole year just trying to, convince my father that I really wanted to be a designer, and I learned to draw. So for one whole year, I did nothing but just learn to draw, to paint, so I could get into art school. Then I applied to New York at the Pratt Institute, where my mom also graduated. And from then on, I worked in Italy, in Germany, and then I did my travels around the world, and then came back. Yeah.
So early on, you were always creative. Were you always inclined?
Yeah, I was always
this
always
field?
very creative, But I went to a Jesuit school, and there was no emphasis on art, right? I think they were trained you to be a doctor or a scientist or an engineer.
So your dad, was he really against it?
No, he wasn't against it. I think he was concerned. He was concerned because, and he was right that business is really important because it's applicable to everything you do. So even now, I'm very happy that I took up some accounting courses that I understand a bit of business, finance, and yeah, I'd like to say a good designer is also an entrepreneur. So you have both the left and right hand brain working.
So how are you able to balance the creative field which you're in and business?
Yeah, so it's
The practical side.
yeah, that's a challenge, right? Because you have to always, that's the difference between what I do and art. When art, I design, I don't have to think about selling it or other people using it. And here, I have so many things to think about when I design a chair. It has to be comfortable, it has to look good, it has to go at a certain price, it has to be loved by a lot of people. So I think that's the challenge. Yeah.
Okay. Um, uh, Going back to this generation, a lot has changed over the past decade. What is your take on this current generation that we have?
Yeah, I've worked with I think all ages, and I also teach. Right, I teach industrial design. I
Is
used to
teaching
teach
also a passion for
Yeah,
you?
teaching is really a passion, right? Because they don't pay you much, so it has to be a passion. And I used to teach here in UP in Cebu. We founded with a group of friends the industrial design program, and then I became chair and a consultant for the College of St. Benil, the industrial design, and we redid the whole curriculum there, which they're still using up to today. So the difference, I think, is that millennials today are more passionate about causes, but also you have to keep them always entertained, right? Uh, you know, I think a millennial can multitask, right? And so I think it's very hard for them to focus on one task, right?
Yeah.
And in
Short
class,
attention
short
span.
attention span. So we always have to entertain them, in a way. And it's the same in the office. I think millennials, when they realize their work is no longer challenging, that they move on, right?
Do you
And,
sense a lot of entitlement these days, or
Yes,
are there a lot of
definitely.
fresh new talent as well?
Um, there's a lot of entitlement, I must say, in the younger generation, and I think it's always because of social media. It's always the search for something that's better. There's something, everybody, you know how it is. They all live perfect lives on social media,
Yeah.
and
They
so
like to project
yeah,
a happy scenario,
that's right.
an ideal.
And so people at work or wherever they are, they tend to compare their lives with those of, perfect lives on social media. And
So
the reality is,
they-
it's really not.
They want things instant.
Yeah, they want things instant. It's instant gratification. Yeah.
How do you find the work ethic of the kids these days?
I think they're softer, right, than what we were, than how we were trained. I think that they have a tendency to count, and
Mangwenta.
they want to earn. Yeah, correct.
Instant.
Yeah, it's I think that sense of I'd say they have to be really passionate, right, about your cause, and they are, and they are, but it's very difficult to let them do something that they're not passionate about, And in work, sometimes you have to do things which you don't want to do because you have to do it, right?
Yeah, the reality aspect.
Yes, correct. Yeah, but it's a whole different generation, and I think each generation has its good and bad things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recently, we just came from a pandemic. Actually, I think we're near the end of the pandemic.
Yeah.
How did you cope during those very difficult times, especially the year 2020?
Yeah. So actually, we never stopped during the pandemic. Production went on. In fact, the home market was strong, and we were stronger during the pandemic than before, because I think everybody was spending for their home. Everybody was in the house, and so they finally decided to buy the table or the lamp that they never thought
Mas
of buying.
natutukan ang
Yeah.
household items.
That's right. And also Daghan kayo na second homes, vacation homes,
Yeah.
diba? People are buying, people are what's this, no? And now it's harder because now we have to compete with travel, with fashion, with many other things. Back then it was just the home, centered around the home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere in another interview you did that you're running out of weavers. Is that a concern?
That is correct.
You
that
mentioned that they're aging,
Yeah,
so
yes.
no one can take over.
That's correct. That's the same problem, I think, in farming, no? In agriculture, in the country. The average age of the farmer, the craftsman is 60. So,
Tiguang na jud.
so ang ilang pong, their kids are in college, no? Which is their dream. Diba? That's always your dream nga imong anak kaadtong college, katrabaho sa opisina, diba? So they don't want to do anymore this work, right? Now, this work is part of our tradition, part of our culture. The skill in weaving. We're actually the best, I think, in Asia, and we're losing it.
That's a natural, innate skill that Filipinos have.
It's a skill, I think, yes.
That hand.
Yes, the handcraft. But this is
handcraft.
yes. There are no formal schools for this, right? And I've been advocating that we should have a school for weaving, for all these techniques, because these are skills which are disappearing all over the world. So it's important, I think, for designers to find ways for these craftsmen to make a living and to prove to the next younger generation that there is life in crafts, in working with your hands. There's dignity, there's pride that comes from working with your hands.
Do they look down on being a weaver, or
I think in general, right? People look down on people who I think
That
work with
kind
their
of
hands.
work.
When it's physical work, right? I think it's different. I think in other parts of in the world, or especially in Europe, where craft, where working with your hands is a dignified thing.
Okay. There are many upcoming designers. What's your advice to the younger generation? As we mentioned, there's entitlement. So, what would your message be?
I think design. The role of design is to make the world a better place, right? And there are many ways to go about it. I believe that it's not only to sell, but when you invent the perfect, a better cupcake or a donut or a interior of a restaurant, right? Or a better chair or a table, you improve lives, and making money becomes secondary.
A byproduct.
Right? It's a byproduct, yes, but it's important. But I think it will come when you find a new way of doing things, or a better way of doing things, right? It can be a better product, chair, service, interiors. But when you find something that's unique in the world, then I think the money will come.
Yeah. Okay. I imagine it must have been really a challenge to build your brand early on, because from local to global, diba? And you were virtually unknown at the time.
Yes.
So what was the biggest challenge in taking your brand global?
So there are several things, right? A brand is a story, right? And so how do you make your story known, right, in the world of design? And it's difficult to do that. That's why there are not many brands, first of all, in the Philippines, and there are not many Filipino brands in the world, in any field, right? I think we're one of the very, very few, especially in the world of luxury. So it's difficult because to build a brand, you need money, you need advertising, you need to show, to be able to retell your story many times. That's the first. The second is it's very difficult to build a luxury brand from the Philippines when you're Filipino.
Third world.
Yeah, because there's that notion, third world, especially in Europe, your porter, your cleaner, your all these jobs that are Filipino, right? They're caregivers, nurses. So it's very difficult to let somebody pay a lot of money for a Filipino product, and it's stigma that I go against, and I try to prove to the world that this is as good as any French or Italian brand. So but I have to work double hard to do that.
Okay. Was there a time in your life that you ultimately knew that this was really the path for you? Design, taking it global?
Yeah, I don't think there was a particular moment or a flash of lightning that made me
A
understand that.
turnaround
But
point.
yeah, but it eventually, when I made my brand and people liked it, and I was starting to earn a name for myself, not only here in the country but also abroad. I think that I knew then that I was onto something. This has always been something that I wanted to do.
Okay. Now that your name is internationally renowned, how do you stay grounded?
I think I always look at the things, not the things so much that I've accomplished, but the things that I still want to do. And I remain small, looking at the mountain that I still have to climb, to push the brand, to push what I stand for, to make my story known around the world.
Any new ventures that you want to explore outside of
Yes,
what you've done?
Yes, we're exploring. I want to go into, I think, hospitality. To go into my own brand. I think of resorts or
Resorts.
of residential, living. I think that we are. It's a home brand, but it's also a lifestyle brand. We have an online site called kcurated.ph with smaller things that are, I would say, more within reach, right, of people. It's always been a dream of every designer to have their products in everybody's home.
Okay. Ever since you've been Cebu-based, right?
Yes.
Did you ever consider living elsewhere, like Manila?
I've considered living abroad because it's easier to market, to tell your story when you're abroad. But I think I have to be rooted here because everything emanates from here.
The foundations.
The foundations are here. The craftsmen are here. The design, the artistry, everything is here. My story is really rooted in Cebu.
How do you deal with copycats? I noticed in recent years, I saw on the news that there were a lot of people copying your designs.
Yes, there's a lot of, it's that's a big problem, not only for me but for all creatives out there. And I try to go after them. I have cases in court.
Ongoing.
Yeah, ongoing.
Lawsuits.
Since already for maybe 15 years, 20 years, I'm going after them. But they've actually become less. I think it become less and less. I think, than how it was like years ago. I think there's just more. I think maybe more creative people, more creativity out there, that people are starting to make their own designs.
Okay. If I may ask, how many showrooms do you have in total?
We are represented by many showrooms around the world.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know how many, 80, 90 showrooms around the world. I think, but we own about 5 to 6 of those showrooms. Yeah. So we have in Europe, we have in Europe, we have in the United States, and here in the Philippines.
Okay. So how often do you travel these days? Now that
so these
it's not
days
as
I haven't
strict anymore.
I haven't been doing much traveling as before the pandemic. We've used to travel maybe 6 times, 7 times outside.
Any
abroad every year.
favorite places or go-to destinations?
It's always about work. It's always about work for me. But I try to travel with the family to an exotic place almost every year. So I've gone all the way up to, I went to Tibet. I've done the Galapagos Islands. I've been to Machu Picchu. I've been to all the far corners of the world. And for work, I've been to almost all the countries in Europe, every country in Asia. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's very important to when you're trying also to sell your furniture, to design, that you know how the rest of the world lives.
Mm. Speaking of your sales, is it back to pre-pandemic levels or is it better in recent years?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, it was actually better than
Is it
pre-pandemic.
on
Right?
an upward trend?
And I think it's a slow upward. It's a slow trend. The sales would probably be there's growth every year, but it's coming from different regions. It depends on the economy. Yeah.
So it varies from
It varies from which
from
source.
time to time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. On a more personal note, what are your hobbies? I know you're into vintage cars. Do you still collect or drive around?
Yeah. I'm into cars. You know, used to collect, I think, sport cars from the 50s, 60s. You know,
Any
and,
new collections?
No, I used to restore my own cars, and now I think I'm restoring more other people's cars. Yeah, so I have a small shop which I have at the back of the factory, and we restore cars there. You know, a vintage, modern. We do the repairs because in the end, right, we have the same skills. The same skills are needed for auto restoration as furniture building. You know, metal work, upholstery, finishing, painting. When we can't find the parts, we fabricate it ourselves because we have all the machines here.
Okay. What about fitness or staying active? How do you?
Yeah, so I work out regularly, maybe about
Any sports?
I work out 5 times, you know, 5 times a week. I try 4 times a week. I try to,
just in
hit
the gym.
I hit the gym. Yeah, I haven't found much time to do other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Delving deeper, what about your philosophy in life, or what are your spiritual views? What do you think is the purpose of humanity, where we're going, what we're here for?
Yeah, I think we're here for each other, you know, and I think that these awards and and how much money you make is really not important. I think the last question is, what have you done, you know, for your brother, for your neighbor? And I think that's what's really, in the end, that's how the measure, you know, I think that's how our lives will be measured, what we did for other people.
And I imagine you must have collected many awards, but these come secondary.
Yeah, these are all, I think,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, these are important, I think, in the business world, but it's personally, it's not, it's not as fulfilling as when you help someone or you inspire people to be their best, to help them, you know, reach their potential and to find the secret of happiness.
Okay. How many employees do you
We have about 250
250
Yeah.
in total.
in total, and those are in-house. You know, of course, there are a lot of support industries that we use. You know, so all in all, maybe I think 1,000 maybe people depend on what we do here, from our marketing to sales to our subcontractors to to actual people we work with.
When you're designing, do you need to be in a good mood, a quiet space, or can you
Well-
function if, let's say, you're in a
Well,
bad
if you're
mood,
no, it's difficult to
if you have
function when you're
issues?
when you have issues or you have a problem. It's really hard. It's hard to function. So
Okay.
you have to be spiritually strong in a way. But I can't. That's for me. I can't say that for everybody because a lot of good designers out there, have wrecked lives, and they're still
Okay.
they still do very, very good work.
Okay. Since design is very subjective, how do you find an objective measure on what's good, what's bad, what looks
Yeah.
terrible?
And that's why design education, another thing I always tell young people is that you have to train under somebody who's good, right? School will not give you that. And so after you graduate, I would say, don't go for the job that offers you the most pay. Go for the job that offers you the best training. Because art and design is subjective, as you said,
Yeah.
right? It's not a math. It's not a science, 2 plus 2 equals 4 anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But art and design, and whether this looks good or,
Could
that's
vary from
could vary from people,
different
right?
opinions.
So you have to train. But there are universal design principles which they're uncovering now, which everybody, the whole world shares, right? And now with the internet, we see the same things. We like the same things now. So I think it's more predictable. It's easier today than what it was like before. But you have to train under somebody who's good.
Do you have block out moments or
Yeah,
similar to writers, right? They have writers
the
block.
creative block. That's part
Yeah.
of the industry. That's normal. So whenever I'm stuck on a project, I just leave it and come back to it refreshed the next day.
Refresh.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm actually an introvert. Although many people say that
Because you're always in the limelight. You're always
but I
featured.
do it because I have to do it, right? It's not something that I enjoy, so that's why I'd rather let the work speak for itself. But it doesn't always work that way, right? You can't really let your work speak only for itself.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I chose to become a designer and not a singer or or a public speaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite among all your work? Is there
No, I
a
don't.
go-to?
I've been
Or
asked
something
that.
that you're really
There's some things that I
proud
really
of?
like. Some things that there's some things like I feel like the dragnet chair is always one of my favorite designs. Here and there, but they're all like my children. I think it's very hard to pick a favorite.
But what's the all-time bestseller?
It depends on the country, right? So here in the Philippines, the Yoda chair, the one with the sticks,
Yeah.
and then the Chiquita, the one with the poles
Yeah.
around it. The ones over there, they sell very well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have a role model growing up? I imagine it must have been your mom.
Yeah, my mom was a big inspiration in my life because she was really the first really very creative person, and she also went against the mold. Everybody was making furniture for other brands, and she decided to make her own furniture.
Her own original
design,
ideas.
which was very different at that time. It was also a struggle, right? Because people may like it or not. So there was always a risk, but she took that risk.
And you managed
And
to
she inspired me, yeah.
take it to another level.
Yes.
And you took
yeah.
it global.
Yes.
How was your experience in Italy and Germany? I know you studied there for a time. Was it instrumental in
Yeah, I
bringing
would
you
say
where
so.
you are today?
I would say so because it's a different, in the United States, there everybody loves classical tradition, traditional design. In Europe, everybody loves modern things because they have so much tradition around them. And so all these, I learned about modern design there in Italy and in Germany.
Okay. I remember Brad Pitt bought from
Yeah.
you. Do you still
Yeah.
have many celebrity?
We also have
clients,
celebrities. We have celebrity
Hollywood.
clients. Yes, some we know about, some we don't. But yes, we have I think we have a sizable Hollywood following, and you see it also in the movies, in television.
Okay. I know recently you were also very active with the art fair.
Yeah,
Is that an annual thing?
that's an annual thing. That's an advocacy. We work, and we did that's with some members from the Cebu Furniture Industries Foundation, and we set up the Visayas Art Fair, and then we set up this thing called Bodega for design for other, for smaller gift items, and it's really for manufacturers here to share their designs with the rest of the public.
Okay. Where do you usually draw inspiration when you're coming up with something?
Yeah, there's no formula for that, right? I'm inspired by things, by my travels, by my childhood, by things that I grew up with, and some are very literal, like you see them, you like you see that the bloom is like a flower, it's very obvious. The clouds, and some are not very obvious, right? So I'm inspired by all kinds of things. This is, for example, this is a collection, from the world of or from nature. I mean, it's like collecting. If we could trap nature in these boxes where you can see them and enjoy them forever.
Okay. Okay. Since you're a true blue Cebuano, what can you say about Cebu's recent developments and the Cebu economy
Yeah, I must say
these
that
days?
it can be better. I think that I'm also been the chairman of the Regional Development Council, right? And I think that Cebu needs to take matters into its own hands, and rely less, I think, on the national government. Yeah.
More initiatives on
Yeah,
at
and
the
we need-
local level.
Yes, and we need more private people to participate actually in government, because we need newer ideas, more out of the box thinking to solve a lot of problems. Yeah,
Yeah, and traffic
I-
is getting really
traffic
bad.
is a problem.
Infrastructure, right?
And I don't see, I don't see solutions down the road. Flooding is a problem, right?
Would
And-
you
and I
ever
think it's a-
consider politics?
No, no, it's not for me. I'd rather work behind the scenes and help people in any way I can. But yeah, I think that it's the whole political system. If you ask anybody what's wrong with our with our country, and any Filipino all around the world will tell you it's our government. It's a system.
Okay. How else has design evolved? I mean, in recent years.
Well, it's become more.
Modern, would you say?
No,
modern?
no, I wouldn't say that. It's becoming more idea because of Pinterest and because of TikTok, maybe, and all these things, right? So people tend to design now in one style, more or less, right? And you see new cafes opening up here; they all look the same, right? And you
Yeah,
see
quite
that depends
similar.
on the year. You kind of know when they were made, right? Because they all look at the same things, and so I think that's a danger. That's a danger of design. That is called globalization, right? That wherever you go now around the world, a cafe is almost looking the same. It's usually earthy. It has wood. It has these chairs. It's like the whole. And that's, I think, kind of sad, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so that's the danger when somebody tries to go into design, that what they're doing has already been done.
Okay. As a creative, how do you stay true to yourself, stay authentic without being a sellout? Because I know for others, they tend to want to please people instead of staying true.
Okay, so yeah, that's never been a question for me, never been a problem, I think, because I've never designed because for other people or
It's
because
really
other
for
people.
you.
It's really for me. I design it for me, and hopefully, if I like it, somebody else out there in the world will also like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, what would your message be to our viewers or anyone who would be watching this?
No, I think the questions. I think it's pretty. The questions almost encompass everything. I don't think I've left
Yeah.
anything out. Yeah. But for those who want to know more about my work, you're very welcome to come. I'm inviting you to the showroom, here in Cebu, and just give us a call, and do follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, to find out about new things, about our latest work, and stay inspired.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
All right.
Uncle
Thank you.
Kenneth. Until we
Thank you.
meet again.
Till meet again. This is the Bloom chairs. No? This is one of our best sellers in the Philippines. This is the Nani. I think we have 7 colors of the Bloom chair, and then this is a light lamp called Limbo. We have about four different poses. These are inspired by the circus, acrobats. This is called the Limbo chandelier. Then we have there called acrobat. It's called Limbo acrobat.
Okay.
Okay.
Sige. Where
This
else?
is the bed. This is
Morning
the
palit ni
famous bed, the
Brad
Brad
Pitt.
Pitt bed. This is the Brad Pitt bed. Yeah.
Kato sila pang Angelina.
Ah.
Buwag na.
Yeah, wag. Oh. Mo siguro na cause. Yeah.
Okay.
Kani ang peacock chair, muna ako this is my interpretation of the traditional nga peacock design. Yeah. And then this is a newer design. This is called corda. It's like inspired by knitting, by knots, macrame.
Unsay kina mahal na item, uncle?
Actually,
What's
wala
the
dire.
most
actually pinakamahal wala dire karon, but I can send you a picture.
ang kinamahal dire?
Kani dire wa siguro sa pinakamahal kato siguro ang bed dito. Next to, Ito ang bed dolce. Kani this is a carbon fiber nga chair. This is an experiment na carbon fiber, no? So it's light, it's strong, it's for outdoors. So mo ni siya this is an example of using a high-tech material pero Filipino craftsmanship.
Okay.
This is called the Phoenix. This is a concept car that actually went already around the world. No? We shipped this to Italy, went to Germany, and then came back here. It's called the Phoenix, made out of rattan, carbon fiber, metal. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a concept car. Yeah, this is called the Little People nga light, no? Inspired by itong bayanihan spirit of working together. So it's a very poetic, it's a very conceptual light. People reaching towards a common goal, which is the light. This is actually a bed. It's a newer design called the Dolce bed. It's a very soft bed, and when you sleep in it, actually the sound level drops. Makafeel ka. When we put this in the fair exhibition or so noisy, when you go inside, it's suddenly quiet. It absorbs all the sound, and it's nice because it's like a cocoon, your own space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Monisha, this is the Yoda chair, one of our best-selling designs in the country.
Yoda. Why Yoda from Star Wars?
From Star Wars, from the hair.
Buhok.
Sige.
Okay.
Okay na. I think okay na.
Thank you.
Sige.